So the president making some changes in his cabinet, giving Attorney General Pam Bondi the heave-ho, and the Supreme Court considers whether the president has the authority to end birthright citizenship. It didn't seem like it went well for the president there, but we'll talk it over with immigration attorney Michael Wilds, and he's got some thoughts on that, as does former White House National Security Council staff during Trump's first term, Josh Steinman. So, Michael, let me start with you. You know, Bondi she was a pretty loyal AG during her tenure. You know, she cracked down on anti-terrorism convictions she made, went after Antifa, broke the backs of some of the cartels. Why is she out?
Well, I think it was just too much on the brink of extremism, and the positions that she took were not sustainable. And just walking blindly with the president's position was not going to be helpful. The birthright citizenship is just a simple example that the Supreme Court took up this year. Disruptive, divisive. This legal precedent is clear for a generation and is not being explained to America. The fear of chain migration is just an anomaly of the first term. And America has so many people joining its military and doing such wonderful things because they're born on U.S. soil. We want to double down on these individuals. We had a fascinating case. My late father represented John Lennon from the Beatles back in the day when the Nixon administration was trying to deport him. We had a plane that was landed in America. When the mother landed, she had to leave months later, but the baby was given citizenship, not recognizing the nobility that we are a jus locale, not jus sanguine. We don't judge people by the bloodline of their families. We were created as a safe haven, and that notion of liberty is something beautiful. I have yet to see somebody crossing the Rio Grande so that 21 years later, yes, 21 years later is when you can sponsor a parent. So this was just emblematic, in my opinion, of the poor stance on the law and the constitutional underpinnings that, you know, the legal precedent was clear. Unconstitutional overreach and the kind of tactics that she deployed were not appreciated.
Josh, I mean, you work for Trump. He removes Bondi as AG. Todd Blanche is now acting AG. Do you think Blanche gets the top spot? Or, I mean, obviously there's a lot of other names being floated. Lee Zeldin from EPA, perhaps. Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney in D.C. I mean, there's others. What do you think?
A lot of great attorneys in the president's orbit. I'm sure he's going to make a great pick.
You don't want to guess. You don't want to play the parlor game. All right. So the Supreme Court. Let's talk about the executive order the mayor was talking about birthright citizenship, children born here. Do you think? Let me ask you this, Josh. Do you think basically, you know, what I heard, it doesn't sound good. Maybe 7-2, maybe. But do you think that the Supreme Court's going to find a way to kind of nuance this decision a little bit?
You know, I can't speak for what the court may or may not do. However, what I can speak to is that there are a number of people that we've seen who have been born here in America and then granted all the various rights of citizenship who have actually had malicious intent. And you can go to some of the research done by folks like Peter Schweitzer that believe that there are over 750,000 to over 1 million Chinese nationals that fly to Saipan, give birth, and then fly back to China and enable their children to have American citizenship. That, to me, can swing an entire federal election, an entire presidential election. I feel like there is huge risk in allowing this radical new interpretation of what makes an American.
Yep. Josh, Mike, go ahead real quick, Mike.
If I can, those individuals can't vote until they're 18, and it's up to our intelligence services and our law enforcement to make sure that people don't step out of line. But the notion that a person can't get a status or shouldn't earn citizenship when they're born on U.S. soil goes against not just the clear expressed words of the Constitution, but also the notion of this country. I have to tell you, both of my grandfathers came through Ellis Island, and they looked at themselves as citizens by choice. not by chance. And the fact that we don't appreciate or that we have people that would undermine us does not mean that we change the words of the Constitution around. That is the skeleton that we birth skin every generation on.
Well, that's the question of whether or not the interpretation has been misinterpreted and whether or not it's been allowed, despite what the arguments were by the framers and by members of Congress when they were debating these issues, what the actual intent was and how it's morphed or been accepted. I mean, if it's something bad, then it should be thrown out. Just, you know, and whether or not they'll go that distance, I'm not so sure. I don't think they will.
I'll tell you that they're cracking down now on people having children in America, that if you don't pay for the baby, you'll be prohibited from visiting America. And there is a real crackdown because of the benefits that foreign nationals might take and trying to have a child in America. But the Constitution is clearly expressive. Unless you're a diplomat, not subject, any child born in America is entitled to citizenship. And that's really a landmark of our immigration policy and law.
Gentlemen, we appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
All right.